Welcome to another tech video. Today we're going to be talking about backups and just why it's so important. And the main reason for that is over the last few months we've done a significant amount of data recoveries for people in our local area. So we're going to run through how you can keep your machine backed up for free of charge. It's completely free software, and we're just going to run through that process with you today. The first thing you want to do is open a web browser, and we want to go and just do a search for Hyperius Backup Free. Click on the link and then click on download. So while this is downloading, I'll explain about the differences. So the free version of the software will allow you to back up to a local attached drive or a local NAS drive that's on your network. So it won't do things like drive imaging, but if you want to just back up your personal documents, so that's your documents, desktop, pictures, music, videos, whatever folders you've got that you want to back up, it will do that, and it will save them all to like an external drive or a NAS drive. Okay, so once that's downloaded, you want to click on Open File to run it. I'm going to say yes to install it. I'm just going to close the browser, and we're going to follow the steps through. Accept the agreement. Say yes to create the folder and install. Make sure your box is ticked. Launch Hyperius Backup. Click on Finish. That will then open the software up. Okay, at this point, let's just show you how we've got things set up. So if we look at the laptop here, let's just bring this down. So we've got the laptop, and then we've got an external USB drive connected into the laptop, which is all you need to do. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to create a new backup. So we click on Create New Backup, and then you'll see the various icons at the top here. You want to click this first one, and it's going to ask us for the path of our data. So we're going to select our C drive, we're going to go to Users, and then we're going to go to our personal folder here, and we're going to select the folder. So that's basically telling the system to back up everything inside my personal folder. We don't need to use an account because we actually own this user folder. So we're just going to say OK to that. And then we're going to click on Next, and this is now going to ask us for a destination drive. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to select a path, and we're going to click on our Seagate drive, and I'm actually going to create a new folder in here called Backup. I'm going to double click that folder to go into it, select the folder, and as you can see up the top here, it's now got our E drive with our backup on there. And again, we don't need to use the access network path using the following account because it's a locally attached drive. If you were using a NAS drive with a username and password, then you would set your username and password for the NAS drive in here. We don't want to activate any zip compression, but we're going to go into our options and say, make sure this is ticked, saying create destination folder using the backup job name, and I'll explain that later. We've got this one here that says do not create empty folders. So in other words, don't bother creating a folder if there's nothing in there. And we're going to leave this one to say if there are empty folders on the destination drive, that's a USB drive, then remove them. But we're going to leave that unticked because we want to keep those. And then we're going to click on the backup type up here. So the backup type, this is important. So as it says here, first create a full backup and then update it with new or modified files. This means that the first backup will take a little bit longer, but every backup after that should be very quick because it will only do changed or new files to back up. And we only want to keep one copy of those files, otherwise you will soon fill up your drive. So we're going to say OK to that. And that's our destination folder in place. And now we're going to click on Next. And we can now run a schedule. So we're going to select every day of the week. And it doesn't matter if your drive's not attached on one of the days, and it also doesn't matter if your laptop is switched off at some point. But what we can do is we're going to add an execution time for the job. So we can say, let's say it's saying it's 9:53 now, so we can say 10 a.m. in the morning. We're going to click add, and you can add as many of these as you want. So I'm going to say 1500, click add. I'm going to say 1900 and click on add. Because if your laptop's not on the first one, then it's obviously not going to back up. But if you switch it on after 10 o'clock in the morning and it's still on at 1500, then it means the backup job is going to run and it's going to be successful. So I always set 3 backup times on every day. Usually catches it then. And then we're going to say that. Now the next thing you can do here is if you want to receive email notifications of when the backup job has run, then you would tick this box, you would fill in the details, put in your email recipients, add a mail account here. So the mail account would be your SMTP server details and the account name. I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm going to say close. And the reason for that is because I can check the log files to make sure it's run, and also I can see when it's not run or when it's had a problem, because there'll be a red exclamation mark in it. So that's the email notifications. And you can also tell it just to send the email notifications in certain scenarios. So you can say here, if there's been an error, then send a notification, or if there's been no file copied, send a notification, and that way you can keep an eye on it if you don't want to bother going in and checking. Now we're going to click on other processes, and if you had multiple backup jobs, you can say to the system, after this backup job has run, then I want to launch either another backup job by ticking that box and select the backup job that you've previously defined. That's useful if you're doing multiple users with different account names and things like that. So for your instance, just to do a standard backup, we're going to leave all that alone. And then we're going to click on advanced. So this is quite important. So we always want to create a log file. We don't want to write in the log the complete list of process files, because you could have a huge log file. And we can ignore the plain text format. It's going to write it in HTML format for us. And we're going to keep the box, limit the number of errors and warnings, so it'll create a smaller log file. Now this option here, display backup operation in progress, and we've got a show status window. So what will happen is when the backup runs, it will pop up a status window and it will show you what's going on. Or you can show a balloon in the system tray to notify the status of operations. So that'll put a little window down here and it will tell you what's going on. So we tend to untick that box. And the reason for that is because we want the backup to run silently, and then we can check by clicking on our task manager here, and it will show us if it's not backed up by putting an exclamation mark in there. If it has run, or if it's running, you will see a green little play icon to show that it's actually backing up, and we'll show you that later. The rest of these options can remain empty, and you tick the box here if you want to include hidden files. Now I don't, because I don't need to back up hidden files. I just want to back up my actual documents, and I don't want to include system files either. So that's all we need to do on that option. Then we're going to click on next, and then the summary. This is the job name. So this is the part that I told you about earlier, where you want to create a folder inside your backups directory of the job name, and you can either put this as the host name of the computer or your own personal name. So I'm going to put this as Ian Robson laptop. Then I'm going to click on OK. and then that is the backup job completed. Now there's two ways you can either run the backup job. So the first way is you can click on your taskbar here, double click this option, and then you can do a right click on the job and then say run backup. That's the first way of doing it. And then the second way of doing it is you can click on your task area icon, do a right click on the icon here and click on run backup and then the backup name, which is what I'm going to do now. We're going to say click on that and it's going to say run the backup job, and this is, you will only get these prompts when it runs it manually. When it's running it automatically, it will just do it silently at the back in the background at the time that you have told it to schedule the backup. So we're going to say yes, and if you watch the little icon down here, that will change. So now you can see the green play running icon, and if we go back to our device here, you can see we've got activity now where the backup is actually running. So that's the backup running. Now you can go off and check to make sure that folders are being created. So I'm going to scroll down until we find our E drive, which is our Seagate backup. I'm going to go into our backup, and as you can see here, here is the job name, Ian Robson at laptop. We're going to go into here, and it always does the full path, so you know exactly where the files are located. So we're going to go into our C drive, users, Ian Robson, and this is all the data that is currently being backed up. We can see our documents folder there. We're going to see our downloads that are appearing, and as you can see here, you see the scroll bar is actually getting bigger. That's because the data is being copied. We're going to close that down. And if you want to see what's going on, you just simply give it a double click and that will show you the balloon pop up, which is here, and it show you what's going on, backup in progress, all the files that are backing up, the processed files here. And if you want to shut your computer down at the end of the backup job, then you just tick the box saying shut down computer, end of backup. I'm not going to. And then you can close that down, and if you want to, it shows you here that the backup is in progress, and we can close that down for now as well. So once that's completed, we'll come back and we'll have a look at the log file. Right, so once your backup is completed, then if you want to go in and check your settings or check the log file, and it's not open on your screen, click on the little system tray icon, give this a right click and say open backup. And now to have a look at the log file, just do a right click and go down to show log list, and then double click the latest entry. And as you can see here, this will then give you all of the information about the backup. So let's just scroll down. There we go. So you can see here it tells you the size of the data copied, how many files were processed, the execution type. So it's manual because we kick this off manually as opposed to scheduled. And then it tells you here what items have been backed up, how many files, normal copy completed successfully. So that means that everything in the backup ran successfully. So that's it. Then once you finish with the log file, you can close it down. Close that down, and you'll see that Hyperius will just sit in your system tray and happily run and back up at the scheduled time for you. But you have to make sure that obviously your USB drive is connected to your device for the backup to happen. Otherwise you'll get a failure and nothing will get backed up. So this is an ideal way. Let's just go back to the top down view so you can see. So this is a solution for the desktop or laptop. Obviously for a laptop you need to make sure that it's connected. For a desktop you can just leave it plugged in permanently, and if this drive goes pop and faulty, you lose all the data on it, but you still got all the data on here, so you just plug in a new drive and that will then recreate all of the structure and do a full backup again. If your drive goes pop on here, then you change your drive on here, you reload Windows, and then you copy all your data back from your drive into the system. And that's all there is to it. So if you found that video useful, and I hope you did, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.